sometimes the jury wants to hear from the defendant. A lot of times the jury will say, all right, you say you killed a guy, you say you did it in self-defense. We need to hear from you that you had an actual good reason for taking a human life. If that's true, we'll acquit you. But we need to hear it from you.
In my experience as being a lawyer, a lot of time the defendant needs to take the stand. It is their right not to. But jurors often want to hear from the defendant in his or her own words what happened. And there was a long delay yesterday, some 3 hours, and they thought that the defense was preparing Carmelo Anthony to take the stand. And
You think it's possible within the laws of physics to have prepared Carmelo Anthony to take the stand and not simply burn his defense completely to the ground? I mean, there's a reason they didn't put him on the stand, right?
He ended up not doing that, and they rested their case, which was surprising to me, because just following this, I'm not sure that they raised enough reasonable doubt about this being self-defense.
No kidding? He's not sure. So, of course, the state has to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Another way of saying that is the defense needs to raise a reasonable doubt that it could have been self-defense. I would argue they were not actually entitled to a self-defense jury instruction at all. They didn't meet their burden of production. They didn't meet the more than 0% evidence for each of the elements of self-defense: innocence, imminence, proportionality, avoidance, and reasonableness. You need all of that. I guess not avoidance in Texas in an otherwise lawful case of self-defense, which this was not an otherwise lawful case of self-defense. But you need more than 0 evidence in support of those elements, so there's something for the jury to consider. If there's 0 evidence on a required element of self-defense and there's nothing for the jury to consider, it cannot, as a technical matter, be self-defense. You're missing a required element. I don't think they met their burden of production. The defense did. And if you don't meet that, the burden on self-defense does not shift to the state. Self-defense just disappears as a legal defense. The jury ought not get a self-defense jury instruction. I mean, there is no defense. And essentially that's what, obviously the judge gave the self-defense jury instruction, but it didn't help because this jury was not insane.
Convinced, I felt Carmelo needed to take the stand.
And to that point, the jury, though, they had 3 options, right? Not guilty, manslaughter was one of them, or murder. What does it mean that they skipped right past manslaughter?
I still feel like manslaughter fit more perfectly just off of what I've heard. And you have to take into account these were teenagers. 17 years old. Carmelo Anthony did not have a criminal record. It was a 3.8 GPA. I believe he was captain of the football team, track star. He was a good kid up until this point. So it seemed, because even his statements directly after the fact, this was a pocket knife, which it's being reported a 3-inch blade. I think the whole thing was 5 inches, and it was just one wound. He just reached out and stabbed one time, so it wasn't like he stabbed over and over and over, and then fled. And even then,
let's reverse the races here. Would he be describing the events in this manner if Austin Metcalf had shoved a knife into the heart of Carmelo Anthony for no good reason? Would he say, well, it was not that big a knife. It was only one stab.
And saying, is Austin going to be okay? To me, that doesn't sound like the words or the intent of somebody knowingly trying to kill somebody else. Well,
of course. It's worth recalling what the jury instructions, what the law actually requires in Texas about this. On the murder jury instructions. What the jury had to decide: did he intentionally or knowingly cause the death of Austin Metcalf by stabbing him with a knife, a deadly weapon, or with intent to cause serious bodily injury? Did commit an act so clearly dangerous to human life by stabbing Austin Metcalf with a knife that it caused the death of Austin Metcalf? I mean, clearly he knew he was committing an act clearly dangerous to human life. You stab a knife into someone